Another fast round while we're at it.
Okay.
Beyonce.
She's so great. She's like the Virginia Woolf of hip hop, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
I never really
absolutely. That's actually the
makes
perfect analogy. Absolutely.
This complex kind of feminism, but also these long, complex narratives she's now constructing that, you know, and her tremendous insistence on her own agency in her work and to kind of go where she's going to go and not even kind of stick to the genre. And
of course, I've heard that one of her biggest influences is a woman named Rebecca Solnit.
To quote Beyonce from Formation, which has become my new kind of silent protest. But no, there's this very funny thing that happened in 2012, which divided my world into those who knew Beyonce and cared and those who didn't. It was fun. Somebody in my family, it turned out, didn't know how to pronounce her name.
People don't care about Beyonce?
There are those people, Jeff. We've been protecting you.
Okay.
But Beyonce tweeted a paragraph from a field guide to getting lost about the color blue. It was a few months after the birth of her daughter, Blue Ivy Carter. People immediately leapt to the conclusion, because when you're that famous, everybody's over-interpreting and projecting on you like crazy, that this was actually the explanation for why her daughter was named Blue, which turned into Beyonce named her daughter after. And it was really fun. People didn't know there was this thing called nonfiction, so it kept being turned into a novel or a poem or things like that. And the sad thing about it is there are times where somebody mentions your book and you get like a little bounce out of it, is that Beyonce fans turned out to not be really big book buyers as far as I can tell. But I am, and it's also this funny thing, I'm such a fact checker where, like, at first I was like, hey, that's really cool. And then I was like, nope, I'm a journalist, I'm trained as a fact checker. I'm like, did Beyonce say that's why she named her daughter that? What's the origin of this story? It was kind of like innocuous fake news. And then I was like, there is no direct source for this. People are just making stuff up. I'm not going to take credit for it. But I'm like the person who edited my Wikipedia entry, so it no longer said that I was at Tiananmen Square in '89 and at the Zapatista uprising in '94. And then I kind of regret it, because sometimes it's like, what's that other thing they say in the man who shot Liberty Valance? You know, when the truth becomes legend, print the legend.
Yes. Yes.
That's not actually what I went to J school a mile from journalism school at Berkeley. That's not actually what we were taught.
What's your take on Trump's proposed budget cuts on the National Endowment for the Arts? What do you think the future holds for the arts and humanities?
You know, we have a really small arts budget compared to a country like Canada, which is, I think, about to double their arts funding under the cute oil pipeline guy, Trudeau. You know, he's very handsome, but he keeps building pipelines, so, like, I'm not really a fan.
Yeah.
But, you know, I received an NEA. I've worked on my New Orleans Atlas, received an NEH that was really instrumental to doing it. I've seen firsthand. But one of the sad things about this kind of budget cutting is that it doesn't really understand how economies work. That, you know, that one of the things Trump is doing is scaring off the tourist economy, which is crashing pretty dramatically. And for a lot of cities, including San Francisco and New York and New Orleans, you know, I probably should have been closer to this the whole time, but nobody told me. Wow. And but this wicker chair has me leaning way back as part of it. It's very tilty, and I should have tested it. But you know, the arts are have a huge economic benefit, and so cutting them, which they pretend, and it's tiny, like they're spending more money protecting Melania and Trump Tower than they are on the NEA, and you know, it's really just, it's a hate crime, basically. And you look at all the way they're allocating spending, and like the science research actually benefits the country. Cutting, you know, automobile emissions, people actually save money on gas. And so they're doing all this stuff, and in a funny way, they are idealists. They're responding according to how the world should be rather than the way the world is. So they're doing these symbolic things that reinforce a kind of white, patriarchal, old ways. Like Trump's whole obsession about coal. Coal is just never going to be a useful fuel again. you know, and there's not that many coal miners, and where it's never, you know, it's basically, and I joke that Make America Great Again really means Make America 1958 again. You know, and so there's a platonic ideal where it's still 1958 and coal is our energy and climate change doesn't exist and lots of men work in coal mining and we pretend that black lung and all the other hideous things that happen to them don't happen. You know, so it's weird seeing them build an economy or destroy an economy based on kind of ideological fantasy rather than what works. And I think the military right now is like, we're the biggest armed military in the world. What are we going to do with 10% more? Like, you know, and then of course it goes back to fear. The idea is that if you throw more money at the military, we'll be safer. And it's like, what are we not safe from? And I thought it was, in my experience, white men with guns and male violence generally, and, you know, the opium epidemic and health crises and climate change and stuff. And that's one thing that I find really interesting is this kind of bait and switch fear game. But the NEA, I know, will be a great symbolic victory, and I think it also is about the kind of pencil-necked elites being crushed. That's me. Possibly you, although you're not nearly as pencil-necked. And I think that was an Adlai Stevenson term. And so, you know, it may or may not happen, but it's also something Republicans have wanted to do for a long time, and now they're trying to kind of live out all their fantasies, and their fantasies are mostly destruction.